afternoon or morning or whenever you're watching. Welcome to today's video, and today we are taking a look at this Panasonic portable stereo component system. It is, if you can overhear from the noises in the background, it is a RX-CT800. Now, I'm not sure of the exact year that it was manufactured, but looking at the general appearance, my guess would be 87 or 1988. I may be wrong on that. I will do a bit of investigation before this video goes online. But certainly one of the first things that we want to do is to actually see if it's working. You can see that you do have detachable speakers either side, which are just held in with what looks like a couple of clips, and they just pop up and off like so. Fairly simple setup. That's probably fake, although you never know, it could be real. And then they just slide back in place again. Just trying to work out how they slide back in. So, oh yeah, like so. So on, and then click. There we go. It has a CD aux in, which is quite handy. It has not a huge amount of dust, but a little bit of dust here and there. There we go. But let's plug it in and see if it actually works. It has a 5-band graphic equalizer, which is quite fun. This aerial is past its best because it just falls over like so. So I'll have to rest it over there. That might be resolved by, I might be able to tighten up the little screw that's on there. I'm not sure, but we will see if I can do that in a second. But certainly I think the first thing to do is to actually power it up. Now, this is an interesting feature. It has obviously the standard tuning option. It looks like that has become disconnected at some point, but it has a fine tuning option as well, which is quite interesting. So there's two. This one's obviously main tuning, but then you have the fine tuning option, which obviously sort of takes you even further on the tuning. I'm guessing what it does is you tune it into a particular station, a frequency. This will very, very gently manipulate that frequency at a more precise level. It has 4 bands, shortwave, medium wave, long wave and FM, which is quite unusual on something of this age. A graphic equalizer, as you can see here. These were probably chrome at some point, but they have sort of faded to this sort of grey colour. We also have a balance control, quite standard. I expect these to be very noisy, so we'll probably give those a bit of a service-all treatment. And we have dual cassettes. So let's see if we have. Oh, it plays, so there's a fair amount of torque on that as well. Let's see, that one also plays. Yeah, a fair amount of torque on that one as well. So that does seem to work. And do you know what? Seeing as we are in the vicinity of the tape player, let's actually plug it in. Not plug it in, it's already plugged in. Let's pop a tape in. Let's do it into deck 1 first. Yes, I did do it the wrong way around. Let's do it into deck 1 first. So there's also here that's unexpected. I was fully expecting having to do a rebuild, but That's actually not bad at all. It's quite a nice.
Tenth of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy.
Quite a nice full-bodied sound as well. Let's turn that down a bit. Yeah, it's quite a nice full-bodied sound as well. So graphic equalizer, do that down to 0.
The pair of legs that carried him were rickety.
You just have a very sort of neutral sound.
Which inclined him somewhat to the left.
That's your bass.
The nap of his hat was ruffled.
Mid-range.
Quite worn away at its brim, where his
Still mid-range. And treble.
Presently he was met by an elderly parson astride on a grey mare, who, as he rode, hummed a wandering tune. "Good night, eh?" said the man. "Good night, Sir John," said the parson. The pedestrian, after another pace or two, halted and turned round. "Now, sir, begging your pardon, we met last market day on this road about this time, and I said..."
Yeah, that's actually not too bad. So we'll probably need to take it apart to have a look at this. But if I try that in this one.
That near a month ago. I may have.
Perfectly fine. Doesn't seem to be any problems with that whatsoever, which is good news. Radio is the next one. So that's on shortwave, medium wave, long wave, FM. So let's see if we've got anything on FM. Let's go right down to the beginning. So this is the beginning.
The Prince of Wales. And as you do get in touch, please do let me know where you are, because I'm filling in my map of the UK. Julie Baker has...
Yeah, not too bad. That works.
I'm loving your programme today. It's only just...
So I think that's Radio 3.
It was from an anonymous sender, and it read...
My office heard from London yesterday that you have some questions about...
This will be Radio 4.
Perhaps we can help you get to the truth.
The academic quickly replied with a few questions.
So that's mono,
to test his new acquaintance.
stereo.
Was this person
I'm not
aware
too
of
sure
the
what
chemical
stereo
attacks in
3
Syria that
is,
had been
unless...
faked? He certainly was, and he hinted that he had
Unless
access
it's
to
just there, because this also doubles as mic input, normal dubbing and high-speed dubbing. So there's probably no difference between stereo 3, stereo 2. Probably does exactly the same thing.
Found it useful for your confidence kind of as you move forward.
So that works. Also works. Also works. So, yes, that. Does that allow me to rewind? Ah. So, although playback works, rewind and fast forward doesn't. So, in that case, we may still have to have a bit of a look around in there, just to see if there's anything that we can do belt-wise. But do you know what? I think I'm going to put this back down. Ow. Just pop that there. Let's have a look and see what we need to do to get this apart. So to make life a bit easier, we're going to remove that came off so easily before. There we go. Going to remove both speakers, get those out of the way. It's currently unplugged as well. So this is the little screw which I was on about possibly adjusting. We'll do that in a moment, but I think we will just want to take these off and get these out of the way first. And there we go. That one is, wrestle that off. There we go. That one's off. All sort of very standard by the looks of it. We have obviously, yeah, you can see that's like that at the moment. So let's try something initially. Just need to find my screwdrivers, which I have here. There they are. So let's pop those out. Let's grab a small crosshead. There's a small crosshead. Let's put that into a vertical position and let's see if we can tighten that up. There you go. Perfect. So obviously after years of doing that, it's just gradually loosened up. But a little tighten up, and it's good to go again. Now, we need to have a bit of a think about I've completely forgotten my words. Where that we have screws that we need to remove. So there is one, no, there's none there actually. There's one here. There's one there. None there. There's one here, none there, and one there. If I open this up, we also have one in there as well. So relatively simple. We just have some moulding holes, but we do have one in the centre. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll need a long reach crosshead for those. So let's just grab that now. So we'll need a long reach crosshead. This one, actually no, this one should do it. So let's go into there. And is that far enough? Have I reached the bottom? So that is the bottom. Might actually need longer than that, you know, because that is a very long way down. Let's see if I have one that's longer. I do, and it's this one. But I'm now running the risk of this actually being too big for the screw at the end. So let's have a look. So there's our screw. There's that going into there. That's on the screw now. Yep, there it is. And there we go. So it's best to apply a bit of pressure when you do it. So you have pressure, obviously at this end, pressure at the front, which enables you to get the screw out. You get to a point where it will jump slightly back down, and that means that the screw should be removed. And there you go. So, same story again with the rest of them. So we'll do this central one next. So we'll just go in. It's actually quite a good idea to have a little torch so that you can see what you're doing. My head may have actually been in the way when I was doing that, so we'll just go back a bit there. But you can sort of just feel when it locks into the head of the screw, or the screw head rather. So I think that's about there. That's it. There. There we go. So that will come out as well. I don't know where this has been stored, but it's full of dust. It's probably been in somebody's loft at some point, and then sent to wherever it was sent to before it came to me. So I think it came from not a junk shop, but one of those sort of house clearance places. Which is always a sort of a shame when sort of stuff like this ends up there. But that's just unfortunately the way it is. I've also noticed, which is quite handy to know, the ones with the screw holes have these little circular indentations or circular bits there. Don't know if you can see those. Circular sort of nub moulding there, and there isn't one on this one. Yes, there is actually, yeah. There, and there. Which obviously means that that's the ones that you need to take out. So that's in place. No, it's not. Let's have a look. Let's go back there. Let's get right onto there and oops, just rotate that gently. There we go. That's latched in, so we should be able to back that out like so. Yep, that's out. There we are. That's actually come out with that. Now we have this one right down the bottom here. So for this one, I might need to do this more by touch than anything else. Might be easier just to raise it up slightly to get to this one. There we go. And that should also come out quite nicely. There we go. And finally, that one right in the battery compartment. That one's actually a bit easier to get to. Certainly a lot easier to see, so I won't need the torch for that one. You can do it without the torch, obviously. You don't need the torch, but it just makes things a bit easier. If you position it in such a way, you can actually see down past the shaft of the screwdriver, down to the actual screw head. And as I say, it just makes it a little bit easier to actually get access and make sure that you are hitting the right point. I think that's probably out, to be honest. Yes, it is. Pretty certain that's out, or is it still? Oh no, it is. Yeah, there we are. So thankfully all of those are exactly the same size. Now, looking at the way that this is assembled, my guess is that this will come away like so. So a little tweak here and there. Check underneath to see if there are any more screws. There are no more screws, but there are a couple of clips there. So to get to those, we're going to use a very small flat bladed screwdriver, which we'll use here, just to ease that up like so, and ease that up like so. In fact, we don't need to do that one because that just comes up easily enough. Gently put that back down, and we'll just pull the whole unit, whole fascia forward, hopefully. It's probably worth ejecting and just having a look to see if there is anything else in there. There isn't, but that comes away. Once I remove that, that actually comes away as one whole unit. That's interesting. Never seen that before. Got to be careful with those because they could... Actually, no, they don't seem to come out at all. That also gives me an opportunity to see what's wrong with the tuner wheel. and it looks like at some point, yes, I can see what's happened. So that's not something I'm able to fix, unfortunately. But what seems to have happened at some point in the past is the actual tuner itself, as you can see here, part of it's broken off. If we find the other half of it inside the machine, then there is a possibility we can do something with it. But as it stands, there probably isn't much that we can do. It literally just is a case of... Oh, no, I tell lies, look at that. So, I've just looked inside there, and I've just noticed, if I pop this in here, there it is. It seems to be snagged on something. And trying to put my finger in there just seems to send it back even further. Let's see if I can tip it out. There it is. So what I should be able to do is just move this completely out of the way, and there we go. Now I'm awaiting some suitable glue, which probably won't be here by the end of the video, but what it means is that I will be able to, hopefully, because it looks like a fairly clean break, I should be able to glue those back together. So I'm going to keep that out for the moment because it isn't too much heartache or misery to actually remove that. Now this is quite nice. The actual graphic equalizer board is on this little separate board here, which I can just tuck out of the way. It does make life easier when trying to remove the front of the unit. Now, it looks like it actually will, if I look at the front of the unit, so you can see that you have these sort of like dust shields on there. And what it looks like would happen is this would come through like so. So those would come through, and I'm just trying to see if there is a pin that locates it. So there's a pin there, and there is a pin here as well. We'll work that one out in a moment. What I want to determine is why we have no fast forward or rewind. And to do that, we can have a look at, that can just tuck itself up there for the moment. We can have a look at the belts. So these seem to be our main drive belts here. To be perfectly honest with you, they look okay. There doesn't seem to be any issues with those whatsoever. As with a lot of sort of more reasonably priced decks, let's say, we do not have an electrolyzed erase head. It is just literally that, an erase head. So if I do that, that should release the record. Try to see how these work. Oh, they're like that. Okay. That's stop, I think. That is play. That's play and record, as you can see there. And there you go. All the record does is just bring the erase head up. That's stop and eject. That will be fast forward or rewind, one of the two. Also fast forward or rewind, one of the two. So that looks okay. So if you do play, that brings everything up there. So that's obviously going to be play. If I do a rewind option, it doesn't seem to have any movement whatsoever. It doesn't even seem to have engaged anything. So let's stop that and let's remove these two screws to actually take this whole unit out of the deck. This whole deck out of the unit. So there's a couple of screws holding that in place. There's a connector up here, but I don't really want to disturb that. It's one of those annoying ones that once you remove it, you probably never get it back in again. Or you probably get it back in again, but it would be a fight. It has that free... Oh, nope, there's one there. So there's one here that we have to remove as well. And hopefully we can... Let's have a look and see where we're snagging. So this is obviously going to be a snag point there. There's one down here. Although that's actually not too bad because that will come out. Let's see what I can do about this connector here. Is there a way I can undo that? I seem to remember that things like this, they tend to pull out and then you can get them back in again. But the problem is I don't really want to pull it to a point where I can never get it back in again, because that would just be very annoying. So I'm going to get this in such a position that I can actually see what's going on. And there. So thankfully I should be able to see what's going on here. Both the belts look fine. If I do, say, put it into fast forward. Aha! There should be another belt that goes to this one. And similar story with this one. There should be another belt underneath this flywheel that goes to this one here. So it looks like those haven't been replaced or they've snapped off. Looking inside the unit, I can't actually see any sort of obvious traces that there has been anything that's actually come out. Now, I'm trying to work this out, this connector. Let's have a look. Absolute worst case, you can... Looking at that, it's actually quite easy to unsolder it and then just solder that directly to the board should you disturb it to a point where it never goes back in place again. So it's not the end of the world, just a little bit of extra work that you would have to complete. Now let's see if I've got a suitably sized belt. I think I have. I'm actually looking at a pair here. Those should be suitably sized for the fast forward wind idler. So to get to them, I'm going to gently tilt this into position and firstly unhook that. Excuse the noise in the background, it's one of the children. I'm going to hook this one, hopefully there's nothing in the way, but I should be able to hook this one underneath and over there, and I think I actually need a slightly tighter belt, so let's just do that. Let's find a couple of belts which are a little bit smaller in overall diameter. So they're actually that sort of size. I've got a lot of belts in here, but the ones that I have, they're a lot thinner as well, so I'm not certain if they would be up to the job. However, that seems to be the next reasonable size down. May not have the thickness, but it may do the job. So let's just move those out the way. Let's grab this one. Let's just hook it underneath here. So what we will do is we will go just around. Actually, might need to just stretch that over like so. So then I think that's in place, and then just put that around there. There we go, so that's that one. So then this one can come back over there. There you go, so that's actually resolved that one. Now we need to do this one on this side, which I believe is going to be a very similar setup. Now you won't be able to see what I'm doing, but because of the position I've got this in, what I'm doing is I'm whipping the belt off on this flywheel. So gently does it with this belt. So the belt is off that flywheel. Get in the smaller belt. Let's move that to there. Get in the smaller belt and slipping it onto underneath the flywheel, like so. Easier said than done. So once that's in place underneath, you can then stretch it over the other idler. To do that, I'm just going to pause the video and you'll be back shortly. So you rejoin me at the point where I'm just putting it back together. I've put everything back in as regards the cassette mechanism, so that's all back in place. I managed to get that belt on in the end as well, just took a little bit more fiddling, but it was back in. The graphic equalizer volume control just seems to slide onto the front there. Just sort of clips into place quite nicely once you've got all the controls through. This bottom piece just slots back into place like that, and that's that. And then you've got everything sorted again. Actually a lot easier than I thought. Now that I've got the cover on, I'm just going to plug it in. Just make sure it's in tape mode. So there's no speakers attached to it at the moment, but we will plug it in anyway. And what this will allow us to do is to grab a cassette, and there you go, it's rewinding, and it's also fast forwarding as well. Let's hook up the speakers. So we can actually just put these back on, to be honest with you, because they don't need to be off for me to screw it back in place, all of the unit. So we'll just put those back into play. There we go. Oops. And that should latch in. There it goes. Yeah, there you go. Just have to get it in a particular way for it to latch into place. So that is sort of back together. You need to be a bit careful because there's no screws attached at the moment, but let's just plug these speakers back in. So there is that one, and this one. There we go. So a quick test to make sure that it still works after fiddling about inside of it.
Bias in his gait, which inclined him somewhat to the left of a straight line. The nap of his hat was rough,
Yep, no problems at all.
a patch being quite worn away at his...
Let's just check the other deck.
It's market day on this road about this time, and I said good night, and you made reply, good night, Sir John, as now. I did, said the parson.
Yeah, not bad at all. Check the radio still works. Yeah, that seems fine to me, to be perfectly honest with you. I think all that I need to do now is, if you remember from a little bit earlier, I actually removed this. So this is the tuner indicator, and what has happened is this has snapped off at some point in the past. So what I'm going to do is carefully glue these two together, put this back in, and I will have, hopefully, a working tuner indicator. But for now, I'm going to pop the screws back into it, because that's how I like to do things. I just like to have everything back together, even if I've got to go back into it again at some point. Probably off camera, treat it to a little bit of a clean. I notice on here there's a bit of corrosion on the speaker grill, which I can just touch up with a bit of satin black paint. So basically, to get some satin black paint, spray it into the actual lid of the paint itself. Little paintbrush, and you can just sort of touch that up. I would use a bit of rust remover first, or in this case, probably just a little bit of sandpaper, just to get rid of that. Once that's done, a bit of a sort of a general clean up, and we'll be sorted again. Actually, just noticed that there is a bit of wear there, and a little bit of wear on the sort of strip here. This is actually just part of the moulding itself. So there's probably not much I can do about that, apart from, say, possibly get sort of a little chrome strip to stick across there. This, not really able to do much about that myself, personally, unless I was really sort of going to go to town with it. But to be honest, it's probably fine as it is. General clean-up, cosmetic clean-up, and it'll be good. Let's check that. Let's just rewind that. Anyway, that should... Oh, it is an auto stop, apparently. Full auto stop soft eject. No, it isn't. But it does have a nice soft eject. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you have found this interesting, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks very much for watching. Take care, and see you soon.